It's time to play ball. My son has been working with his baseball team since the fall, and we are officially in baseball season. So if you're a mama like me and you got to stock up on all the sporting gear, now is the time. Academy Sports and Outdoors has the gear that you need, and you can bring it home for less. Gear up for baseball, softball, and t-ball with essentials from Easton, Rawlings, and Wilson at Academy. Academy offers free 1-hour in-store or curbside pickup if you're like me and you forgot to get the equipment in time. Swing by your local store or shopacademy.com today and get ready to hit it out of the park.
Catch the Spring and Bloom event at Whole Foods Market with savings for Easter, casual gatherings, and more. Save on no antibiotics ever meat, best of season spring produce, brunch favorites, sweets, and more through April 22nd.
The anxiety you feel in the pit of your stomach whenever you see a contemporary succeeding, the same feeling that makes you self-sabotage, might be the 11-year-old who never felt good enough. Hey guys, it's Rach. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. And I have a favor, which sounds kind of harsh if we just met, but I'm assuming that most of you have been a part of this community for a hot minute. And so I gotta ask, are you subscribed to the podcast? Subscribing to the podcast you listen to regularly is one of the best things that you can do for hosts like me. It helps to support the show and the staff that works on it. It ensures that you never miss an episode when we drop a new one. And here's the cool thing about subscribing. If you do it and then you hate this show, just unsubscribe. It's one click away. In the meantime, if you're listening, we would so appreciate it if you would just tap that button and make it official. Hi guys, it's Rach. Welcome to another episode of the show and a new audiobook mashup. In these episodes, I'm sharing some of my favorite chapters from the audiobook of the new book with a little mashup moment. Specifically, today's episode features one of the chapters that surprised me by being a reader favorite. When I first launched my new book, What If You Are the Answer, I asked the podcast audience to call in to the hotline and share which chapters were their faves. I thought that I would have a big mix of this chapter and that chapter. What I actually got was a lot of people talking about the chapter you are about to listen to. And to be totally honest, when I wrote it, I didn't know if it would resonate with anybody because it talks a lot about childhood trauma and working on inner child work through therapy. It is a process that has been really helpful and healing for me, but sometimes when I go deep into the therapy stuff, I never know if you guys will dig it or if you'll find it interesting or if it will apply to your life. Since therapy is such a personal process, I guess that's it. I never know if I'm sharing my own healing journey, if you'll find it helpful too. But it turns out this one did. And here is some of the things that listeners said about this chapter.
Hi, Rach. This is Amanda from Chicago. I was lucky enough to be in your audience last week when you were here, and it really changed my life. And your question of which question in your book was my favorite is going to be the same one that I asked you. How old are you right now? The reason why I think it's so monumental is because for everyone that's been doing the work, going through healing the parts of ourselves, looking forward and really taking guidance from an older, wiser person just makes so much sense. And I wanted to say thank you.
Rachel, hey girl, it's Colton. I am just leaving the review, as you had asked, about my favorite chapter of the book. And by the way, I know I'm not the only dude who listens to this. I think the rest are just like closeted Rachel Hollis fans. But I was raised by women, and I'm a nurse, so I'm not afraid of your uterus. The chapter that really resonated with me was How Old Are You Right Now? I basically took myself back to probably being like 6 or 7, sitting on the floor, like so badly wanting to just like play with my sister's Barbies and, put makeup on and do my nails. but was told I was not allowed to because boys do not do those things. And in this exercise, I took the version of me now with my painted nails and just like wrapped that little version of me up and took him to the local Walmart where I grew up, let him pick out whatever toys he wanted, whether that was a Barbie or just makeup or any of that. And I just honestly, it helped me so much. It was super helpful how you explained it. So thank you. And as always, we all appreciate all that you do. Bye.
So you can see that people really got something out of it, which is why I thought it would be a good one to share here on the show. So for the first time ever, this is the audiobook chapter of What Age is in Control Right Now. And maybe that doesn't make sense quite yet, but when you hear the question within the framework of this specific writing, I think it'll make a lot of sense. If you want to take a deeper dive into anxiety, which I talk about quite a bit in this conversation, stick around because after the audio chapter, I'm going to share a podcast episode that I made several years back about anxiety. So take whatever is helpful to you, share it if you know someone who might dig it too, and we will jump right in. How old are you right now? Ever been wildly triggered about something so insignificant you can't comprehend why it set you off? Same. Most memorably, I once had a debilitating anxiety attack. The kind that swallows a whole day with nausea, shaking, an elephant of pressure crushing my chest, all because someone I barely knew sounded stern on a phone call. Stern, that's it. That's all that happened. He sounded stern, and I had an emotional meltdown. I could tell you 50 more memories just like that one. These experiences don't happen during seasons of emotional distress. They occur when everything is chill. One moment I'm fine, the next I'm suffocating inside an emotional cyclone. There's no warning shot, no external variables that create the perfect storm for a breakdown. In fact, I rarely notice the moment I'm triggered. It's only afterward, in the nosedive, that I'm aware something set me off. In the course of my adult life, I've been triggered into psychological spiral, into binge eating, and into drinking to get drunk. I've been triggered into obsessive circular thinking, into manic episodes, and into low-grade depression. But of all possible outcomes, the worst and most common result for me is anxiety. Severe anxiety feels like being trapped inside a terror I can't escape. In those instances, I don't have anxiety, I am anxiety. Every worry, every awful thought, every possible catastrophe, they're absolutely real. Another rational adult might try to talk me down, explain how the grandiose scenario I'm panicking about isn't likely to occur. But my body is involved now. My heart is racing and my stomach is sick, so it's hard to believe someone who reassures me that nothing is happening. Clearly it's happening. I can feel it right now inside of me. Over time, I learned that if I could create even the smallest bit of space from the feelings in my body, I could use that pocket of air to dig my way out. The first pocket of air I discovered was understanding that what I was feeling wasn't permanent. Because it came on without warning and went away eventually, I could cling to the ephemeral nature of the experience. If it was temporary, it made sense to me that something must be making the anxiety happen. That's when I first learned about emotional triggers. A trigger is a catalyst for a severe emotional response, regardless of your current mood. Bingo. There was a name for what was happening to me. I could dig myself out by a few more inches. Identifying when my mood shifted allowed me to dig out a bit more. I was fine this morning and great during the day, but just after lunchtime something shifted. I would run the moment back in my mind. I'm unsure if it's like that for others, but I often wouldn't know which component unsettled me until I played it back. It's like watching a movie. Everything I'm watching is fine until one moment when it's suddenly not okay. My whole body reacts viscerally. Freeze frame. It could be a face, a tone of voice, a song that was playing, a particular smell, anything. It's like finally seeing the monster under the bed. Yes, it's still scary, but at least now you know what you're up against. Understanding what I was triggered by became my greatest hack for separating myself from anxiousness. It might still haunt me, but at least I could name it, make it less corporal. You're not real, I would tell it. You're only here because the car backfired and the sound reminded me of that day, and that made me feel scared. Once I figured out the trigger, I could usually see the correlation with an unhappy memory from my past. Other triggers I can identify, but have never uncovered why they terrify me so much. Crossing a long bridge by car or the look of certain apartment buildings, they remind me of something, just on the edge of memory. I'm not keen to excavate those tender bits. It's enough for now to know that something about them causes suffering. Early on in my self-work, this was one of the greatest tools I had in my toolkit. If I could identify what the trigger was, it gave me a certain amount of power over it. Understanding what set me off became my obsession. At least if I knew that piece of information, I could separate myself from the feeling. But while I knew what a trigger was and what to do if it happened to me, that did nothing to dissipate how often it occurred. For years, I lived in a world where at any moment I might be blindsided and incapacitated by my emotions. It wasn't enough anymore to know how to treat these symptoms. I wanted to heal the cause. I wanted to understand what causes a trigger in the first place. I'd been looking at the whole situation backward. I kept trying to figure out why I would get so thrown off and feel totally out of control. In actuality, in those triggered moments and the resulting aftermath, I wasn't in control. A younger version of me was. The way I've come to understand it, as children, we experience trauma, a lasting emotional response to a stressful event. Anytime we encounter a situation that we were too young to process fully, our little psyche isn't capable of handling what it's experiencing, so it fractures, splintering off. That little piece of us stays stuck in time, trapped at whatever age they experience the trauma. Then, that little fractured piece of you that's 3 years old or 17 or 22, they become hyper-vigilant, on the lookout for anything that feels like the scary thing that created them in the first place. When you encounter something that feels like that thing, and of course you will at some point, the younger version of you is, unfortunately, going to freak the hell out. To protect itself, it can hijack your entire system and use whatever modality it has to keep you safe. And since you've lived through all kinds of hard things in your life, you've likely got all sorts of different pieces with totally different triggers attached to them. It took a session with my therapist to realize why that particular phone call I mentioned set me off. The call was with an older man, and his job gave him an authoritative role. He reminded me a lot of my father. When he sounded stern, I heard anger. And when I was little, if an older male was angry, you were no longer safe. I started that call as a 35-year-old and ended it with a frightened toddler at the wheel. The toddler? She only has the emotional skills and resources of the age she's frozen at. The only thing she knew how to do was have a meltdown. Younger versions of us show up and make themselves known in all kinds of ways. Sometimes it's through mania or sadness or rage. Sometimes it takes form in our body through pain, illness, or disease. Sometimes it manifests as debilitating fear or the need to numb ourselves so we feel nothing at all. It wasn't until I discovered inner child work and internal family systems therapy, IFS in particular, that I tried a loving approach for the first time. IFS encourages you to look at each piece and part of yourself, all those younger versions of you, with love and compassion. The quintessential book on the subject is aptly titled No Bad Parts. Instead of getting angry, I allowed myself to feel my feelings without judgment. I worked with an energy healer who specialized in childhood trauma. She taught me to get quiet, to go inside and imagine myself talking to that feeling. The first question was always to ask that feeling how old it was. It's startling how fast you get an answer. I swear it feels like every age of me has shown up through this process. I've remembered so many things I'd never marked as painful until I looked at them through the eyes of an adult. It's made me hyper aware of how often children are asked to ignore their own fears and pain because they're inconvenient to adults. Asking which version of you took over in a certain situation is crucial in understanding how to get past emotional roadblocks. It's not the 27-year-old you who shuts down during confrontation and doesn't know how to stand up for himself. It's the 10-year-old who was taught how he must behave in order to receive his father's love. The anxiety you feel in the pit of your stomach whenever you see a contemporary succeeding, the same feeling that makes you self-sabotage, might be the 11-year-old who never felt good enough. When you realize that it's basically a 5-year-old running the show, it hopefully allows you to have some compassion for yourself. It also, hopefully, makes you realize that you don't want a 5-year-old running the show. And it's much easier than you'd think to affect change. We can do it right now if you'd like to try. Think of something uncomfortable you went through between the ages of 5 and 10 years old. The age is totally arbitrary. I'm only mentioning it to give you some guardrails. The memory doesn't need to be deeply traumatic. In fact, it's probably best to start with something small. Search your mind until you find any experience that feels bad, and then focus in on how old you were when that happened. The memory that sprang to mind for me is from when I was 8 years old. So I'm going to close my eyes and really focus in on her. I imagine exactly what I looked like at that age, where I was when it happened, what I was wearing, what was going on in my life at that moment. Then I imagine myself today, at 41 years old, speaking to myself at 8 years old. First, I ask her what she needs from me. Over the years, I've gotten every kind of response. Very young versions of me often asked to be held or rocked in my grandma's old rocking chair. They've asked me to play in the park, or simply watch over them so they feel safe to play in the park. We've cuddled up to watch a movie. In fact, there's an ultra-cozy living room somewhere in my heart where various ages of myself are safe and warm and watching Disney's Beauty and the Beast. A 24-year-old version of me, an exhausted new mother, just wanted someone to hold the baby so she could take a shower and put on clean clothes. This 8-year-old version who came to mind today, she was embarrassed at school. She just wants a hug. The next thing I ask is what she needs to tell me. This 8-year-old girl shows me how overwhelming her life is. She shows me how mama stays in bed and how daddy moved out. She shows me the hand-me-down tank top she wore to school, the one that was a bit too big. She shows me how she found out at the end of the day, too late to do anything, that the boys could see her little breasts through the armholes. She was so embarrassed but didn't tell anyone what happened. There was no one who would care. At least, that's what it felt like to her. I care, I tell her. I hold that little girl and let her say everything she needs to. We have the conversation I would have with my own daughter if the same thing happened today. I ask her if there's anything else she needs. A different shirt, she says. A simple white t-shirt. Something nobody can peek through. This one is brand new, not a hand-me-down. She puts it on. She feels so much better. I take her to the sofa, the one filled with safe, happy versions of me snuggled in together. It's the scene where Belle is singing about the village. That's our favorite part. The last thing I do in these imaginings is ask myself who I am today. If there's something I needed to see when I was that younger version of myself. When it feels right, I take myself on a tour of some relevant part of my life today. I often show the little girl me, so desperate for affection from her parents, the loving relationship I have with my own children. I'll show the 18-year-old who lives paycheck to paycheck and is crying over how she'll pay rent, the balance on my savings account, so she knows that we're safe now. I show 37-year-old me who's lost inside a hideous divorce, what my life looks like today inside of a healthy, loving relationship with a good man. This gentle visualization is the most effective form of self-therapy I have ever discovered. I know it works because I can feel an almost instantaneous drop in the intense emotion the memory brought up. And once I do this healing work with these pieces of me, I am never triggered by them again. That's not to say I'm never triggered at all. There's a lot of memories to work through, especially for those of us with difficult pasts. But I'm never haunted by the same memory again. I believe this happens because on some level, when we reimagine what should have happened to that version of us, our current selves help our past selves heal. I've worked with this idea of my current self helping my younger self for the past few years. In that time, I've experienced the most profound healing of my life. But will you allow me to take this just a little further? To this cosmic sort of question that's been swirling around in my head for months? If our current self can help our past self heal, then couldn't our future self help our current self too? This is definitely too deep of a topic for me to just toss out here at the end of a chapter, but though my goodness, if we ever find ourselves around a campfire, sipping out of enamel mugs and discussing the universe, I would absolutely adore a deep discussion of nonlinear time theory with you. But for now, let's just call this an exercise in imagination and consider this. Imagine yourself 20 years in the future as the best possible version of you. If you live the next 20 years with as much health and vitality and love as you were able to, this vision is who you would be. Now, what does that version of you know that current you might not? What do you worry about today that version of you doesn't concern themselves with at all? What would that version of you say if they were sitting here with you right now? I go to the 60-year-old version of myself for advice all the time. She comes with me on long runs and lays out her mat next to mine at yoga class. That's the mentor who reminds me to slow down when I'm with my kids. She reminds me to savor a long kiss with my love. She agrees to read my daughter another story at bedtime. I tend to push and force and try to hurry things along, but not 60-year-old me. She's chill. She's vibing. She's very, very calm. After a lifetime of accidentally letting my younger, wounded selves run things, I'm aiming to allow my older, wiser, healed self to lead from here on out.
I think you guys know this, but in case you don't, my happy place is on the beach. Actually, that's not enough. My happy place is on the beach with an iced coffee in my hand. What a vibe. There are a lot of beaches out there, but there's only one people call the beach. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, is made up of 14 coastal communities and 60 miles of sunny beaches. Together, they create a place that makes you feel like you belong. Shine and dine in a foodie haven with oceanfront patios, fresh seafood, low country classics, and southern favorites. Plus, my favorite, you can listen to live music any day of the year, outside at laid-back beach bars, at world-renowned theaters, or right on the boardwalk. You belong at Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Plan your trip to the beach at visitmyrtlebeach.com. Look, everyone knows that toilet paper is not created equal. Not all rolls are the same. Some are too soft. Some, can we say, sort of crumble, if you know what I'm saying. Then other toilet paper is so strong that it can actually hurt. And let's not even talk about the toilet paper that is so thin, it doesn't get the job done. Angel Soft is soft and strong and always affordable. Come on, life is too short. There's too much going on. I don't want to have to overthink this. So pick up a pack of Angel Soft in the toilet paper aisle of your nearest retailer. That's Angel Soft, soft and strong. Simple. For some people, they can't remember a time when they weren't anxious. But for me, I really didn't begin to feel anxiety until I became a mom. And more specifically, I was a mother of two. So I had two kids at the time, and Jackson and Sawyer were little. I can't remember the exact age, but they were like in preschool. And I was working at my company. I had 4 or 5 employees at the time. I was running the blog. So back in those days, the Chic site was my business, and we would put together blog ideas and like lifestyle photo shoots, and we would partner with brands, and that's how we made money. I was a working mom. I had these 2 little boys, and I can look back in retrospect and understand with such clarity what was happening and why I started getting anxiety. But honestly, at the time, I had no idea. I would get through an entire day. And I don't know if you guys find that. It's almost like my body could function because it knew it had to. But the second that I wasn't running 100 million miles an hour, the second that I sort of did all the things I had to do, I got my work done, I got through dinner, got through bath time, got the kids in bed, then I would start to have crazy anxiety. And I remember I would be crying and self-medicating. I self-medicated with alcohol, vodka, wine. Some nights I would take a Benadryl when I did not have any allergies because I just wanted something to put me to sleep. I was doing all sorts of things to numb out. I would try and make myself feel better by eating. I made all sorts of terrible choices because I didn't know how to deal with it. At the time, my husband also didn't know how to deal with it. And so then I would have even more anxiety because my anxiety was making him feel bad because he didn't know how to fix me. And it was just so freaking crazy. And I knew that I was getting to the place where I was going to have to be put on medication. And the thing that I want to say right here is take your fucking meds. Yes, I'm going to cuss. If you need to be on medication, own it, embrace it, like take your medicine. I am the biggest proponent of getting the help that you need and doing what you need to do so that you can feel better. I think you guys know this part of my story, but my older brother had severe depression and he was paranoid schizophrenic and he did not take his medicine, and he is not here today because he didn't take his meds. So this is serious as a heart attack. Do what you need to do to take care of you. I knew that I was getting into a place where I was going to have to be put on medicine because I could not cope. I did not know how to cope with my life. And I didn't want to get there. I had to take things in the past. Like I had times where I needed to take something, like I think it was Xanax. And it made I am so susceptible to anything. Like, I don't know about you guys. Like, I can't take cold medicine. I cannot function. I can't drive a car. I want to sleep for 100 hours. And I just knew if it gets to that place, it's really going to impair the way that I was living my life at the time. And so I thought, okay, before it gets there, are there other things that I can do? So I'm just going to reiterate this one more time. If you are on medication, if you need medication, freaking embrace it. But the tips that I'm going to give you right now are the things that I did to navigate around it. And if I got to a place in my life where I needed to take something, I would take it. But I have successfully navigated my anxiety for the last 10 years. And I've done it successfully. And so here are some things that you can do. And I hope that you will find them helpful. But I also want to make sure that you understand that this is what worked for me. And we're all different. What worked for me might not work for you. But I always hope that if I tell you guys how I got to a solution, that even if my solution doesn't work for you, maybe just hearing about the journey will encourage you to go on one of your own. This is in no particular order, just like a bunch of stuff that I can think of that helped me. The first thing, please do not roll your eyes at this because it matters. I cannot tell you how many people I talk to about this tip and they're like, that's not a big deal. It is. The first thing that you need to ask yourself is how much caffeine and sugar are you taking into your body? For real. Like, I was working so freaking hard. I was trying so hard. I'm an Enneagram 3. I'm an achiever. I was trying to be all things to all people. I wanted to be the best mom ever. I wanted to be the best leader ever. I wanted to be the best blogger ever. I was trying to do all the things. And I was getting myself to a false sense of energy with a lot of caffeine. Was living off of coffee, espresso. I remember my office was across the street from a Starbucks and I loved it. I was over there all the time. They knew me when I walked in. I was tweaking out on so much caffeine. And here's why that matters. If you are prone to anxiety, it means that your nervous system is wired to that response. You go into a stressful situation, you're experiencing something, and your nervous system's like, oh, I know how to deal with this. Anxiety. It's wired to have that response. So let me tell you really quickly, my anxiety felt like my skin was crawling, like butterflies in my stomach. My palms are sweating. I feel like something bad is going to happen. I'm jittery, right? All of these things, that's what anxiety feels like to me. Interestingly enough, if I have enough espresso, my palms are sweaty. I feel jittery. My skin feels like it's crawling. I have too much energy inside my body. I'm hyper aware. I'm hyper alert. A bunch of caffeine and a bunch of sugar feels the same to my body as anxiety. And since my nervous system is wired to feel that way, I would just be like, oh my gosh, I'm having an anxiety attack. And then I would. And it wasn't even a conscious thought. It was just something that happened. So be mindful of the fact that you are maybe unintentionally taking in things that are making you feel this way. I literally cannot express to you enough how many people I know who have given up caffeine and it has drastically changed the level of anxiety that they experience in a day. So start there. Be mindful of it. And I'll tell you, I still love coffee. I love it, but I'm really thoughtful about how it feels when I take it in, all that stuff. Okay, so that is my first thought on how to look at your life from 50,000 feet. Anytime that you are struggling with something in your life, you guys, I want you to take a step back. I want you to look at it from 50,000 feet. Like, I want you to raise up above the problem, above your life, and see what's really going on. Oftentimes, not even often, most of the time, people treat the symptom, they don't treat the root cause. They don't treat what's really going on. They're like, oh, I'm feeling this way. I'm having this sensation. I'm having this problem. I will numb out. For me, I was like, I'm going to have a bunch of wine, and that's going to make me at least less aware that I'm having an anxiety attack. So I was treating a symptom. I wasn't treating what was really going on. And it was incredibly powerful for me to teach myself to take a step back and look at what was really happening. And how that manifested for me with anxiety attacks was therapy. Y'all have heard me say it a million times, but I am the biggest proponent of therapy you're ever going to meet, because the root causes of why I was having anxiety is not even something that I was aware of. And it was something that I had to work through with a therapist. I needed to talk to someone who wasn't emotionally connected to my pain. My husband at the time, loved me so much and so desperately wanted to fix me, but he had no idea how. And so it would make my anxiety worse, because now I'm feeling anxious and now I'm feeling bad because he's also tripping out. And so going to a therapist was so powerful for me, to talk to someone who was just solution oriented, wanted to help me figure out what was really under there. Like, okay, let's unpack this thing and figure out what's really going on. So going to a therapist, y'all, I cannot recommend it enough. I feel like it's never been easier than it is right now. Virtual therapy is the thing. Like, y'all have heard, we have a partner that we talk about, BetterHelp. They are not paying me to say that. It's just a long time partner here on the podcast, because I believe in therapy so much. And for so many people, the idea of going somewhere was overwhelming. So I love and have been promoting virtual therapy since long before there was a pandemic. So for what that's worth, dig into a conversation about what's really going on. Here's something that I can look back and see now that was going on that I didn't understand then. And I talked about this at the beginning of Girl Stop Apologizing. If you haven't checked out that book, you don't have to buy it, grab it from a library, but I discussed this a lot. And a huge part of my anxiety I can see in retrospect was because I was trying to be something I wasn't. I was trying to live into the ideals that my husband had for me, that my in-laws had for me, that my parents had for me, that other moms on social media had for me. I was desperately trying to please everybody. It had never even occurred to me to consider, what do I want, or what are my values, or how do I want to show up in the world? A good example of this was I spent so much freaking time and energy throwing the most insane, elaborate birthday parties for my kids, which maybe seems so stupid. Like, it sounds a little stupid to me as I talk to you about it now, because I wasn't doing it because I enjoyed it. And I wasn't doing it because my 1-year-old enjoyed it. He didn't freaking know. A 1-year-old has no idea what's happening on his birthday. Maybe he'll look back and see pictures, but he doesn't know. And here's the thing. If you're really into that, if you're really into decorating, because I have girlfriends who are so into the birthday and they love it and they spend months doing Pinterest boards, freaking live that life. If you're into it, live it. All power to you. The thing was, I wasn't into it, but I wanted people to think that I was a good mom. And I got so much shit. I can say it now because I can say it now. I got so much shit from family. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. We'll just say family. I got so much shit from family about being a working mom. Really harsh criticism about having childcare, about working, about why I wasn't going to be a stay-at-home mom. And it's not something I got once. It's feedback I got for years. And it's interesting now with the success that I've had in my career and my business. Now everyone's very supportive, which is funny. Now everybody is like, oh, we always knew. We're so proud. I'm like, did you? This is a completely different segue here. But a lot of times people ask me, like, how did you convince, your family, or how did you convince other people that like this dream was right, or what? I wrote a best-selling book. It sounds so douchey, but that is the God's honest truth. Nobody believed in me until it was successful. And it was successful after a freaking decade of it not being successful. And suddenly when it worked, now everybody like loves the idea and is supportive of me and always knew, and it like sucks, but it's the truth. You may never have the support of the people in your life until you prove yourself. I wish there was a better way, but that's the truth. And so the question becomes, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but stick with me for a minute. The question becomes, is it worth it to you? Is the dream worth it? Is the life that you want to have worth it? Is it powerful enough? Is the why important enough to you to keep going even without their support? Because do you want to know, like, if you've ever been with me at conference, you've probably heard me do this before. When women stand up and they're like, I'm really struggling with anxiety. I always ask, who are you trying to please? Tell me right now in your life that you're trying to live up to their expectations, live up to their ideals. What woman are you trying to be? What like beautiful Madonna, like, and I mean like the Virgin Mother, not like Madonna the singer. Like, what is the ideal that you're trying to live into or convince people that you are worthy and enough of having the life that you want to have? Because that's where my anxiety stemmed from. I was trying so hard to please other people. And the thing is, when people have a certain opinion of you, you cannot perform your way to worth. You cannot perform your way to being enough. I know because I tried. I did everything that I could to please everyone around me, and it still wasn't enough. And so I found myself every day feeling like I was missing the mark, even though I was trying so freaking hard. And that's where the anxiety stemmed from. And I didn't understand it because I couldn't unpack it. And also, frankly, it never occurred to me to question their right to question my life. Let me say that again. It never occurred to me to question their right to question my life. I thought that if my mother-in-law disliked my choices or my husband disliked my choices, that made me a bad person, and that I better just hustle harder, and I better just work more, and I better just throw a bigger party or host a larger Thanksgiving or nail, brining the turkey so that it looked great. And like, it's freaking crazy. But I didn't know better. And it's why I talk about this stuff now, because I know I am not the only person who deals with this. I know I am not the only person who had anxiety because I was trying so hard to please everyone around me that I could not keep up. I feel like my spirit was literally at war with who I was pretending to be. And every single day I would get up and I would try so hard to fit myself into the mold that someone else wanted for me, and I just couldn't get there. And the freaking beauty, I'm 37 years old, and the beauty of getting older is that I have learned to let go of what other people think, even the people that love me the most. Because still to this day, I still get anxiety. It doesn't come up all the time, but it does pop up. And I will tell you 100% of the time, if I am having an anxiety attack, I can follow it down the rabbit hole and unpack where it came from. And it is always because on some level, I feel like other people are upset with me. Always. So That was really powerful for me to understand, and it took a lot of time in therapy and a lot of self-reflection to get to that place. So I'm not saying that that's where your anxiety comes from, but it is worth asking yourself if it could be that for you.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists create connectivity solutions that change the way we work, live, and play. Like Kunle, a Comcast engineer who is focused on revolutionizing the in-home Wi-Fi experience today and for the next generation. Learn more at ComcastCorporation.com/Wi-Fi.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Look, going to therapy, it's a big investment. And I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about time and energy and emotions. But if you're going to put this much effort into taking care of your physical health, it stands to reason that you should put just as much effort into making sure your mental health is great too. So let's talk numbers. Traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, and that adds up. But with BetterHelp online therapy, you can save on average up to 50% per session. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, saving you big on cost and time. Therapy should feel accessible to everyone, not just a luxury. With online therapy, you can get quality care at a price that makes sense. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/rach to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rach. If I'm saying something in this conversation that's interesting or you want me to unpack even more, I want to make sure you know about our hotline. Like, for real, I have a hotline. Lots of people call into it. You can call and leave a voice message, and sometimes I turn them into podcasts. So, like, I'll play your question. If it's something where you're like, wait, explain to me how you got to that place, I want you to call 737-400-HOCO. That's 737-400-HOCO. That's a hotline, so you can call and leave me a message. Anyway, so ask yourself how much caffeine you're taking in, see a therapist, look at your life from 40,000 feet. The other thing that I want you to consider, and this one's just for the ladies, but also if you're a dude and you are in a relationship with your lady, this could be a powerful thing for you to wonder about as well. What's going on with your hormones? My anxiety is so much more likely to flare up when I'm PMSing. Always, always, always. And I haven't still yet figured out how to navigate around that, but if I'm mindful of when that week is happening, I don't know if you guys ever do this, but like, I swear for like a year, I was like, every month I would be like, the world's ending, everything's hard. Why am I even trying? Like, ugh, you know, like I would freak out. And then I'd get my period and I'd be like, oh, no, the world's not ending. You were just PMSing. And so it was really powerful for me. Maybe this seems so dumb. You guys, you're like, well, obviously. But since I didn't realize what was happening, I assume I'm not the only one. And I just recommend that you pay attention to your hormones. Also, my favorite book to read about anxiety is called Feeling Good by David D. Burns. Feeling Good is the name of the book, and it talks about the idea that all of our feelings are based on our thoughts. All of your happy, sad, angry, bitter, anxious, it doesn't matter what the feeling is, it's always, always a result of what you think. And if you can do the work to control and focus your mindset and your thoughts, then you can control your feelings. And if it's not something you've practiced before, that feels impossible. But I swear to you, I have spent the last decade working on this. And the person that I was 10 years ago truly can't even fathom the emotional and mental health that I experience today. So I want you to hear me say that this is something that you can work on. This is something that you can affect. I swear to you, I know that an anxiety attack often feels like you are out of control, but I swear to you, you can get a handle on your feelings. So check out that book, Feeling Good by David D. Burns. Next thing, if I had $1 for every person that I have gotten onto the supplement, I would have like $1 million. So here it goes. If you have anxiety, I want you to check out something called holy basil leaf. Holy basil leaf, like holy as in like holy, Holy. I first found out about this from a nutritionist maybe 2 years ago. Holy basil leaf is an adaptogen, which the best way I can explain this is, first of all, it's a supplement. It's over the counter. You can get it anywhere. I get mine on Amazon. You can get it at like Whole Foods, or H-E-B has it. You can get it anywhere. So adaptogens, the best way that I can explain this to you is it makes your highs not quite so high. Like it just sort of mellows you out. And please hear me. I already told you guys, like I can't take anything. I get so groggy. So for me to use this so regularly and love it so much and I swear by it. I swear by it. I take it every single night with my supplement stack. I just take one. It's literally like basil leaf. But there is something about it that just helps me so much. In fact, this nutritionist recommended it to me a couple years ago because I was on stage so much and I was like, I'm really nervous that I'm frying my adrenal glands because I am like, if you guys have seen me on stage, I'm jumping up and down, I'm teaching for hours. I was flying all over the country and some situations going to other parts of the world. Like it was insane. And I was really nervous about my adrenal glands. So he's like, let's get you on an adaptogen. And I just added it into my nightly stack and I didn't think about it. And then I ran out. And I didn't even know I ran out. I had like 3 days go by and I was freaking out. I felt like I was regressing. I was having crazy anxiety. I was so overwhelmed and I could not figure out what was going on. And guys, please hear me right now. Oftentimes when we are feeling anxious, we accept that our body is just doing whatever it's doing. But if you are feeling a way that you don't normally feel, if it's worse, ask yourself what changed. Always, like, please get into the habit of this. If you're having insomnia, if you're feeling really sad, if you're really angry, like if you are having a negative suffering emotion and it's like you feel like it's worse or you've been set up, like ask yourself what happened. Just literally go back in time and go, when did I start feeling this way? If you can just identify when you started feeling a certain way, it can be so powerful in helping you figure out why you started feeling that way. So for me, I was like, what is going on? When did I start to feel this way? 3 days ago. And I was like, what happened 3 days ago? And I just kept unpacking. Like, what is it? What changed? No, I'm still sleeping. I'm eating. And then I finally realized, oh my gosh, I ran out of that supplement. And honestly, I wasn't planning to buy it again. I was only taking it because I was finishing up the bottle and I hadn't noticed any change. And so that was the thing that made me realize how powerful it was for my moods. So I got back on it and I never, ever go without it. Half my staff is on it. My mom's on it, like my sisters, because everyone's like, what? This is like so dumb. Like a basil leaf is going to make me it's going to help with my anxiety. Y'all. It really, truly, swear to you, it does. And I will tell you, I actually just had this happen. Super honest with you. This is probably 5 times in the last 2 years that I've taken a basil leaf supplement in the morning and the evening. So you can take multiple. I usually only take one, but sometimes I have days where I feel an anxiety attack coming on and I'm like, nope, we're not going to do this. And so I'll just take it in the morning and it makes me feel a little bit groggy. That's why I take them at night. But I actually just did this the other day, coming into holiday shopping season and, talking about all of our products and doing all these lives. And it's so important. The work that we're doing is so important. And our products are really important because that's what pays for my staff to have jobs. And so I knew that we needed to do our best. And I'm navigating that and navigating, conversations about like divorce and just all this stuff. And I just felt myself having an anxiety attack. And I didn't even trip, and I didn't even like try and fight it. I was like, oh, I'm just going to have one in the morning. So it really helps. I think I've sold you enough. There's all sorts of different brands. I don't have a brand that I recommend because I think they're all the same. And obviously the basil leaf people are not paying for me to say this. I really, truly believe in it. So that, if you don't get anything else out of this conversation, I feel like that piece of advice will help you. But talk to a nutritionist or talk to a doctor. Don't take medical advice from some chick you are listening to on a podcast. And the only reason I'm telling you I feel great about telling you that is it's an over-the-counter supplement, but definitely talk to your doctor if you have any questions. Okay, here's something else I want to make sure and address when it comes to anxiety. Don't be discouraged if you still have anxiety. My gut is that I am going to struggle with this in one way or another my whole life. And it's going to pop up just like it did the other day, and I'm going to handle it because I know how to handle it now. Instead of drowning inside of it and feeling like I'm stuck and I'm trapped in this body that is working against me, right? I just wanted to say that because I think when I was younger and it kept happening even after I was going to therapy, or it kept happening even after I cut down on caffeine, I'd feel so discouraged because I was like, why is this still here? But go back to that idea that your nervous system is wired for the way that you're feeling. Your body knows to like go to that place. So if you've had a lifetime of your body going to this place, then you have to guess that it's going to take a while to rewire your thoughts and to rework your nervous system and to come up with other solutions. So I just want to encourage you to focus on what's good. Focus on what's getting better. Look, the hard parts are always going to be available. The stuff that's not working, the stuff that sucks, the stuff that feels difficult will always be available for you to focus on. But so is the good stuff. So if you had anxiety this week, but you were able to go on a walk and get a handle on it and it made you feel better, or it lowered the anxiety a little bit, freaking celebrate that. That's a step in the right direction, literally and figuratively. So be graceful with yourself. And also celebrate the fact that a lot of people won't try to circumnavigate around this. A lot of people are overwhelmed and they can't even be at the place that you're at in trying to get better. So please honor yourself in the fact that you're trying. So don't be discouraged if it keeps happening. Just ask yourself, unpack, when did I start to feel this way? What set me off? And what are some tactical things that I could do right now to feel better? The next piece of advice, I hope y'all know this already, and maybe you just need your big sister Rach to remind you that this is really, really, really powerful when it comes to anxiety. Move your body. Move your body, move your body, move your body. Go on a walk, dance around in the kitchen, play with your dog, play with your kids, do 20 push-ups. Even if you can only do 2 push-ups, I swear if you try and get to 20, like it will help. When we exercise, when we get our heart rate up, we lower the cortisol levels. Cortisol is the stress hormone in your body. You lower cortisol levels. When you're exercising, you naturally have to take deeper breaths, which calms your heart rate, which makes you feel better. That's why I talk constantly about working out and health, and the pursuit of better health is not about how you look. I don't give a crap how you look. Working out and exercise is about how you feel. Do you have the energy to keep up with the life that you want to live? Do you have the mental and emotional health to show up for your dreams, to show up for your kids, to show up for yourself? I can't give you the solutions to everything, but I know for a fact, listen to me. If you challenged yourself to move your body in whatever way feels good to you for 30 minutes every single day, Not 2 days, not 5 days, 7 days a week. You said part of my life is going to be moving my body. If you did that, it would have the greatest effect on your anxiety and the way that you're feeling. I promise you. And look, it doesn't have to be CrossFit. You don't have to train for a marathon. It just has to be something that you like, because if you don't like doing the movement, you won't keep doing it. It has to be something that you like, and it has to be every day, and it has to get your heart rate up. One last thought. I talk constantly about the importance of habits. Constantly. I'm sure you guys are like, we get it, Rach. We need habits. I talk about it all the time. And I talk about habits not for when life is great. You establish habits when life is going well, so that when life goes to hell, you have a routine and a standard that you can stick to. The habits that I developed over the last 10 years are what made it possible for me to thrive even in the midst of the most brutal year of my life. Anxiety is something that you can manage. Now, every single person listening to this has a different story and different resources and different access and different levels of pain that they're walking through. And so I'm not for 1 second saying that I know your particular story and how to handle what you're going through. But no matter who you are or where you are in the world, there is just a wealth of information online. There are books you can read. There are resources for you to get help that you need. And you might have to try a bunch of different things. You heard several ideas from me. Pick one. Try one thing that I told you about today. Try it out for 3 weeks and see if it helps. You've got to do something consistently to see if there's any traction. And if it doesn't help, let it go. Try another one. If it does help, try another one anyway, because now you're stacking, you're habit stacking, you're piling these things on top of each other and creating a foundation for how you're going to navigate through this thing. You did not ask for these feelings, and you didn't do anything to deserve these feelings, but you have got to fight for a life where you can enjoy it and be peaceful and have contentment and have happiness. And there's going to be moments of stress. Of course there are. And there's going to be moments where it pops back up again. But let's focus on trying to lower the amount of time that you feel anxious and create more space between those moments of anxiousness. Let's just start there. Grab some tools that you can use the next time that you're struggling, because ultimately you are in control. Anxiety makes us feel out of control. Anxiety is a liar. It makes us feel like we are not in control of our own bodies, but we are. I promise. And you are strong enough to do the work to get yourself feeling better. I hope that this was helpful for y'all. We got so many requests for it on Instagram, so I felt like it was a good one, especially during this season. If you think this podcast is helpful, please consider taking a picture, tag me so I can see, and post it on social and let people know, hey, guys, this is a podcast about anxiety, and if you have anxiety, maybe it'll be helpful to you too. I love you guys, and as always and forever, I am rooting for you. The Rachel Hollis podcast is produced by me, Rachel Hollis. It's edited by Andrew Weller and Jack Noble.
TaxAct knows filing your taxes can be complicated, and that's why we have live experts to help you with any questions. They can hold your hand through the process beginning to end. Metaphorically, of course. I mean, they can't actually hold your hand in person. I suppose you could hold your computer mouse while you chat with the expert about capital gains or whatever, which is sort of like holding hands. Sorry, point is, our tax experts can make filing easier. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
At Capella University, learning online doesn't mean learning alone. You'll get dedicated support from people who care about your success. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.